Roz is my rage and Damien is my regret. It was cathartic for me. Each of my characters have a bit of me in them that I'm kind of working through as I write them.
Hi, I'm KJ Aiello, and welcome back to The Book Hook, where each episode we dig into writing and storytelling that challenges the status quo and examines how authors use their work to resist, to question, and to reimagine our world. No surface level chat, just thoughtful conversations for critical readers like you. Today, I'm chatting with author M.K. Lobb about her duology, Seven Faceless Saints, and her new YA novel, To Steal from Thieves. And of course, how to take down a fictional and corrupt institution for catharsis, of course. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's conversation.
Hi, I'm MK Lobb. I am a young adult and adult author. My most recent book is To Steal from Thieves, and I'm also the author of the Seven Faceless Saints duology and the forthcoming book, The Dark in Her Veins. I am a mother of cats and I live in small town Ontario.
I love it. I can actually hear your cat purring right now. I love it. No, I'm not leaving that out.
Let me get rid of her.
No, purring is like earlier today, I just like buried my face in my cat's belly and I'm like, you need to purr now because I'm feeling the feels.
Mine never stops purring if we're touching. Do you want me to put her on the floor?
No, you can keep her. No, she's
She's so
perfect.
loud.
Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh my God. Is she your writing companion?
Yes, she is my Velcro kitty. I always say she wants to sit on me 100% of the time. And if she hears me talking, she comes over. So,
Well, first of all, congratulations on all of the successes that you've had in a short few years.
thank you so
It's
much.
bananas. When did so Seven Faceless Saints was your debut novel, the first in the duology, the
It's just called the Seven Faceless Saints duology, I
duology.
think.
You think?
I
We're
think.
not sure.
It doesn't really have a name, so that's what it's been called online. Like, we never
Yeah,
discussed it.
yeah,
That's what it's
yeah.
called.
That sounds good. I like it. I like it when the duology is titled after like the first book because, or a series is titled after the first book because I can never remember. Like, don't ask me
Yeah,
to,
I
I
know.
can't
I know.
retain. So this came out in what, 2023, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Where did this series start for you?
So I actually started writing the first book when COVID hit in 2020. So I was working a government job at the time, and for some reason they decided that like to try and not have as many people working in the same office as once, we were split into two groups and we would do like 1 week on and 1 week off.
Mm,
So I was essentially working part-time at that point, and I was querying another book, which ironically was the one that came out this year in 2025. Yes, To Steal from Thieves. I was
right on
querying
here.
that. Yeah. And my querying was not going well at all. Like, it was getting a ton
Yeah.
of requests, but they weren't leading to offers. So I decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to write something totally new with all my newfound spare time. And that was Seven Faceless Saints.
So where did the idea come from?
It started out as a totally different book than what it is now, but it was always inspired by like Florence's medieval guild system. So an Italian world, so to speak, even though it's not technically a historical book, it is very historically
Yeah.
inspired, I suppose. But yeah, so there were these guilds in Florence well, I think they started in the 1300s and went on for hundreds of years. Someone can correct me on that because it's been a long time since I did that research, but essentially the society was kind of broken up by people's skills in trades. And I thought, that would be interesting if I wrote a book where society was broken up into guilds as well, but they were magical guilds. And I had also always wanted to write a murder mystery book. And so I kind of combined those two ideas to make this fantasy murder mystery.
I've read the duology, Seven Faceless Saints and Disciples of Chaos, and then I read To Steal from Thieves. And your work has a theme of, first of all, rebellion, change, and it's like dark and
Yes.
gritty. What? Tell me more about that.
You know what? Whenever I start planning a book, I'm very focused on like what the world is going to feel like because it has to be a world that I want to write in,
Mhm.
or I'm going to lose interest. And for some reason, my favorite thing to write in is like a gritty, kind of miserable city. I don't know why, but I really like that atmosphere. I really like kind of a dark, hopeless vibe. But I'm also a former politics major, and so when I am kind of conceiving of an idea, I am very focused on what is the political system going to look like? What are the problems that are going to arise in my society based on the current political system? And so I think that really builds into not only the world building, but the problems that my characters are going to encounter. So they're very intertwined. And like you mentioned, the rebellion stuff, I am always thinking, because I'm thinking of a city that has these almost stratified issues within their system, I always have, characters who have to kind of rail against that because I want to show the problems within a certain political institution, and then I want somebody to break them apart. Wish fulfillment.
Yeah, like break them apart in such, with aplomb, to be honest, panache. They do break them apart with panache. I love a dark, gritty world. I love a world that's, teetering on the precipice of, rebellion and change. And I do feel like there's something that we can all take away from worlds like this and applicable in our own world, right? Like you have to live under a rock right now to not know what's going on everywhere. If you're on social media, you understand.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of that plays into your world building or your writing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you do read the news all the time and you are on social media and you're just hit by like this constant terrible news cycle, I think it's almost kind of nice to put it into a story, or at least some kind of similar but equally terrible system into a story, and then you're able to kind of attack that in a way you can't attack real life problems. And so it's almost cathartic for me in a way, I would say. Like when you feel really hopeless about what is going on in the world, at least you can kind of bring down your fictional institution.
Yeah, I feel like fantasy does that too. It's like this landscape that we can play with, issues in our own world, and we can say, okay, well, maybe this is going to be a solution, or that's a solution, or just, fuck it all. We're going to do whatever we want, and we're going to rebel.
That's definitely a theme I come back to a lot.
Yeah, I can feel that. I support that. It's also interesting how you start with your world. This is my understanding of your writing process, is you start with the world building, and then you find the characters that are placed in that. And they do enact change. These characters are the catalyst of change. But in order to do so, they have to do crappy things. They do self-serving things. What? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of the, not necessarily the morally gray character, though I guess that is kind of what I'm writing, but I am a big fan of putting a character into a situation where they kind of have to decide who they are or who they're willing to be. And I think by backing them into that corner, that really helps me build the trajectory of their characterization, if that makes sense. And so I also, when I'm doing that, I also really like to kind of think about, like, what is a character willing to compromise morally to create big, long-term and big scale change?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of a theme that I sew into all of my books, is like, what is this character willing to compromise about themselves in order to achieve something bigger than themselves? And in Seven Faceless Saints, that's a very obvious compromise that the characters are making. In my other books, they're doing the same thing, but it's smaller scale, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just having them have to make these decisions about, like, here's the person I want to be, but here's the person I need to be in order to make this thing happen or to stop this thing from happening. That's really important to me in my characterization process. And it's also something I just enjoy writing because I'm a little evil like that.
I love it. I do feel like, though, like in Seven Faceless Saints, Roz and Damien, they do have altruistic streaks in them, particularly Roz, even though I feel there's a lot of anger in Roz. And then to Steal from Thieves, the characters Kane and Zarya, they feel quite self-serving, but the results of which end up creating change. Where did these characters come from? There's a stark difference between these two groups.
It's interesting, though, because I'm kind of thinking of them in reverse, because I actually wrote Thieves way before I wrote Seven Faceless Saints, but then it came out way later. So I think when I was writing Seven Faceless Saints and I was building those characters, I did want them to be very driven and very willing to do things in order to create change, specifically Roz. But they were also kind of good at their core. I know a lot of people think Roz has kind of like a bitchy streak, and she absolutely does.
She's rightfully so.
But yeah, exactly. Like, I wanted to write characters that you could understand why they are the way that they are. And so even when they're doing things that you don't agree with, you can look at their backgrounds and you can look at their goals and you could say like, okay, like I might not agree with everything they're doing, but I can understand how they got to this place and why
Yeah.
they think this is the move. And so it's interesting because a lot of people seem to read Seven Faceless Saints and they really like Roz and don't like Damien, or they love Damien and they don't like Roz.
That's so
Um,
interesting.
yeah, because they're just so different in the way that they go about things. Like Damien is very starkly part of the system, and he has to kind of learn to overcome that. And Roz is very starkly against the system. And they also have completely opposite personalities. So they are very, very different in terms of characterization and also the trajectory of their characterization, which I don't want to spoil because I know not everybody has read the sequel, but they're kind of going in different directions, even as they go in the same direction, if that makes sense.
Because they're completely opposite people. So of course that
Right.
they would choose to do different things. But I have to say, like, I love them both, and there are aspects in both of them I'm like, I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
But Damien's arc, I can't spoilers, but
I
like,
know, I know. That was
what?
his is probably my favorite too,
Oh,
over the course of both books. It was just really fun to write. Yeah, I think it's different. It was different writing that book than it was writing To Steal from Thieves, because in that series, Zarya and Cain are very, very similar, and the things that they're trying to do are smaller scale and a lot more personal. So they have very personal goals. They want to steal from the Great Exhibition, and they both want to do it for very specific reasons, in order to help their friends, but also to help themselves. Like, they love their friends. They each have this one friend that they would do anything for, but they're also very self-motivated and they're
Yeah.
selfish. And so I think in that case, it was easier to write them, I would say, because their motivations weren't that big. Like, it was obvious what they were out to do. But it was also difficult in the sense that it's hard to make a character want something that badly, and like, if they achieve it, it doesn't help anybody but them and their very small circle, if that makes sense. Like, they're not creating societal change. This was set in 1851 in London, and so it's rife with imperialism, and there are the slums of London where everybody's suffering, right? And that's where these two characters both live, but like, they're set in the story in a way that they aren't trying to change any of those things, because A, that's not their story, and B, they can't, right?
Yeah.
That's not so, like, I didn't want to mess with history in that way. Obviously, I twisted things a lot, but I wasn't trying to write a story in that case where they're trying to alter the arc of history. This is just
Yeah.
a small little snapshot of what it was like. And so I was kind of struggling with the reality of the society at the time, while I was also having them kind of pick out little problems with which was difficult because I want to change the society at the time, but I can't, and that wasn't what I was trying to do. So yeah, we have that. They're not trying to change that, but then we also have them trying to steal from this great exhibition and do so for very selfish reasons. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's almost harder to relate to them. Like, Roz and Damien, I would hope, are easier to understand. Cain and Zarya, it's like you want to support them, and I think you will support them if you read it, but they are also clearly morally gray, and
Oh,
morally
yes.
gray in the same way. And so part of them becoming who they are as like full-fleshed characters is seeing themselves in one another and realizing like, okay, we're very similar, and like, here are the problems with that, but then here's also the stuff that is good that I might not have thought about. So Yeah, it's interesting to read people's responses to it because I think some people do read it and they're like, "Oh, those characters are like the same character." Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the point in a sense. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. They're meant to be a
yeah,
mirror of each other and
yeah,
how they react when they see that, and I did notice what I felt when I was reading is that they were seeing themselves in each other and they didn't like it.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Especially Zarya with
especially
Cain,
Zarya.
because
Yeah.
he's worse. He is the worst.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't wait to read what the second one to deal with kings. I can't wait to read.
It's yeah, it's a long book for me,
Yeah.
and it has a lot of characterization that didn't quite come to fruition in book one that I was very excited to build upon. He doesn't get better, I'll say that.
If you make this like season 8 of Game of Thrones, we're gonna have a chat, okay?
It's not like that bad.
You're giving like Amelia Clark like
No, it's not that bad, but it definitely, well, anyone who's read the end of book one will understand why it
Yeah.
doesn't start out well.
Yeah, that was a cliffhanger. I'm pretty good usually of catching on to like, I think maybe this is where the author is going, but that one I was like, no, I did not see that one coming. To make you feel super, super awkward, you said in Teen Vogue, and I'm going to read this quote because it really struck me. For anyone struggling with what they've been taught to believe, I hope they take away the fact that it's okay to ask the hard questions, even when it's uncomfortable. More importantly, it's okay to not have all the answers. What
Oh, I
does
wrote
that
that?
mean? You wrote that.
Wow, I was so right.
You were so, I mean, why were you right? I can't always agree, but yes, I do. What does that mean?
So I assume I wrote that when I was debuting with Seven Faceless
Mhm.
Saints. I think
I
that's
think
when
so,
that
yeah.
was published. Yeah. So I mean it could mean multiple things, but in that case I was really thinking about mostly Damien's character arc in that book and how he's forced to believe in this certain religious system and this
Mhm.
political hierarchy. And a lot of his growth in the book is about realizing that he doesn't have to believe that.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are kind of brought up in a certain situation or a certain belief system.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a sort of inherent frame of mind that you
Mhm.
just develop as a child. And then once you're old enough to be able to think about that, you almost don't a lot of
Yeah.
times. I mean, some people do, but in some cases, it's hard to even conceive of the idea that, maybe this isn't necessarily right, or maybe this isn't necessarily what you want to believe. Because, I mean, it's so entrenched that it's difficult to kind of disentangle yourself from it. So, yeah, my goal when I was writing that book, and I know it's very clear in it, probably a little too clear for some people who read it and don't like what I'm implying there. It was supposed to make people look at Damien's story and realize, like, even if you are as deeply entrenched as he was in his
Mhm.
worldview, like, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
You can still take a step back and look at that. And that's part of what Roz's character was. She's forcing him to confront what his beliefs are, even though he doesn't necessarily want to. She's standing right in front of him and essentially holding up a mirror to him and saying, "This is what you believe. Is that actually what you think?"
Yeah.
And so he almost has kind of a breakdown as he's working through that.
Mhm.
Because it is difficult to kind of unravel your thoughts and your thought process when it comes to a system of belief. And it's not easy to do that, and it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And that's a big part of his character arc is fighting against the idea that yes, it is uncomfortable, but to be true to himself and what his moral framework is, he does have to separate from what he was taught. So yeah, those were the kind of questions and
Mhm.
issues that I was trying to inspire when I wrote that, and that's what I was referring to in that article.
I love that you're doing this, like asking or kind of holding up a mirror to your readers as well, saying, you know, here is the fantasy world that I've built, but here is also another way of experiencing the world and how we perceive our world and what we believe in. In that way, it feels kind of like your writing itself is an act of rebellion. Is this something that kind of has come naturally to you or you've thought about?
In that book specifically, yes, it was very pointed. I think when I was writing that, I was almost kind of drawing on my teenage internal struggle of like
Mhm.
going through the same asking of questions. And I think I was trying to recreate Damien's experience in the way that I wish my experience had gone because I understood his desire to have a belief system and the kind of inner turmoil that arises when you are realizing you might need to break out of it. But in my personal situation, I became very angry about it afterwards, sort of like Roz's characterization. I think I say in one of my quotes that, like, Roz is my rage and Damien is my regret. And I
Mhm.
think that is obvious in the way that I wrote them if you know that ahead of time. It was cathartic for me, again, as I said earlier, like it's very each of my characters have like a bit of me in them that I'm kind of working through as I write them. And that's what Damien was. He was kind of me putting that onto the page in a way that I could work through. Because I hadn't really done that. I hadn't thought about it that deeply
Mhm.
until I was having to kind of recreate his thought process. It was good for me and it was interesting. And it was just like a chance to step outside of myself and what I had gone through and put it into a character in a way that I could take a better look at it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Do you mind? And here's the situation where you can tell me no, you don't want to answer this, but do you mind if I ask what your upbringing was like then that brought you to Damien and Roz?
Yeah, my upbringing was honestly relatively normal, but I was definitely in the kind of family that's like, you go to church because that's what people do.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I remember very specifically like being in Sunday school and learning that kind of stuff. And then I think what really changed everything for me, which is so interesting that I remember it this clearly, but I
Mhm.
was 10 years old and living in Germany. And we had a religion class where you would
Mhm.
go and the teacher would tell you, the stories of the Bible and everything. And it was really drilled into you that, like, this is correct, this is what
Mhm.
happened, like that sort of thing. And I had this one friend who never was in the class. And I always wondered, like, where does she go during this class? Why is she just disappearing every time we have religion? And one day I asked her, and I was like, why aren't you there? And she looked at me and she goes, Ich glaube nicht in Gott. Like, I don't believe in God. And that was the first time I was like, you can do that?
That's an
Like,
option?
yeah, exactly. Like, it just hadn't occurred to me. Like, yeah, she said it so like straight up. And
Mhm.
yeah, I kind of had this moment of like, oh my God, you can just not believe in something if you don't want
Mhm.
to.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's kind of what I was thinking when I have Damien having this internal struggle and then Roz coming into the story and then being like, your system is not great. Like, you don't have to
Mhm.
believe that. And then his reflection of like, he doesn't say it directly, but he does have
Mhm.
this kind of internal turmoil of like, that is an option. Like, can I do that? And can I separate from that? And obviously, it took me a long time after that to actually decide what I wanted to believe. But that was
Mhm.
that was a very pivotal moment for me in my childhood that I remember having this kind of dawning realization of like, you do get to decide what you believe. Yeah, you're sitting in a
Mhm.
room where they're telling you something is true, but like, here's another person that I know who's decided that they're not gonna follow that, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that was huge for me and kind of understanding that you could make your own set of beliefs. Yeah.
Have any of the readers picked up on stuff like that?
I don't know. I don't read reviews for that one
Mm.
specifically,
Mhm.
because I do sometimes get emails from people who did pick up on it and don't like it.
Ooh, you caused a stir.
And I think, I mean, it is very obvious in the book, and I have had some people who are like, this book only shows one side of belief, like it shows the problems with organized religion, but it doesn't focus on like the good parts of organized religion. And while I understand that there are some readers who want to see both sides, I mean, my response would be like, it's not a compare and contrast, it's an indictment. And that's what the book is. That's what I wanted it to be at the time. It is very starkly anti-organized religion because, you know, that was kind of the shift that I went through, and I wanted that reflected on paper. And I was in a place where I wasn't trying to show you the good parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it is an indictment, and I think that is very clear to some people, and they don't love it, and that's fine.
It's not for them then.
It's, yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who find solace in it, you know, if they are questioning or they want to be seen, you know, and this is again like where fantasy can be great because you can be seen in a way it's like, oh, okay, this is safe. This is for
Yeah.
me.
I do
Yeah.
get people that have messaged me and said, like, I really liked that this was very open about being anti this or anti that, because it's something that I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not the only one who's gone through that kind of internal shift. And I'm not the only one who's questioned these things, especially as a teenager. So there are people who definitely see themselves and they kind of feel validated by that internal struggle and by the rage associated with it. It's good and it's bad, and I'm happy with that because, you know, that's what a book's supposed to be. It's supposed to make people feel things. So
Yeah, and think, and you know, if there's people who don't like it, well, that's perhaps something that they can go away and think about why they don't like it. If that's what they want to do, that's what
yeah.
they should choose to do.
And if they hate it and they're not ready to think about it, that's fine too.
It's fine. Go to
It's
a
not my
different book.
business.
Not your business. You just write the damn thing.
Yeah.
And I can see then why this book, Seven Faceless Saints, was the book that you just wanted to write for yourself. You know, like you're getting messages and I'm assuming DMs and emails. What is it like being, you know, putting yourself out there, being a public person and an author? How do you maintain your sanctity?
It's pretty strange. I mean, I don't get as much about Seven Faceless Saints now because it's been out for a couple of years. And I think To Steal from Thieves doesn't have quite as big of a readership yet, so I don't get a ton associated with that book. You know, over the last couple of years, it has been odd just to be perceived so intensely by people.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, that was a very personal book, and you know, people have strong reactions to it. So at first, it was really, really hard to have people read it and be like, I hate these characters and I don't like what's happening here, and this book is terrible. It's like, it was very personal to me. And so it was really tricky to come across that kind of stuff online. But I think the more you do it and the more you are, I guess, exposed to different opinions about your work, you kind of become numb to it, or at least I have. I don't know if that's something everyone experiences. Every writer is different, but I find that even now, if I am tagged in negative stuff or someone sends me something negative,
I still do that.
yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody realizes that I'm gonna see it. Like, I'm not that famous. I'm gonna see it. Yeah, but it doesn't bother me. Like, you know, they're not my readers, and my readers are gonna find it. But yeah, it is very strange to be so intensely known because every book that I write is very personal. And so there's something odd about putting something personal out into the world and it becoming a product.
Yep.
Yeah.
Confirm.
You know that. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's weird, right?
So weird.
You kind of have to disconnect from it and start also seeing it as a product. So what I've tried to do is when I'm writing the book, I let it be personal, and then once it's out into the arc stage or whatever, I try to kind of erect a mental wall, and now it's a product and now it's not for me anymore. Yeah, that's tough, but that's also the time that I try and move on and make a new book. And now this is personal, right? Because I can't have it be both at once. Otherwise, I find that really difficult. So Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's time for it to be a product, it's time for it to be a product.
And your social media, we follow each other on Instagram and on Threads as well.
Yeah.
Your
I'm
social
very
media,
online.
you are very online, and some of your threads is like so snappy. I love it. I'm like, she's got moxie. She's got moxie.
I was just gonna say, I'm automatically like that. Like, I'm the type of person who, if I'm scrolling and I see someone say something that's just so ridiculous or blatantly untrue, I have the drive that I'm like, I have to correct this person. And that is a personal fault of mine because I should be able to not care.
Move on, move on.
Yeah,
In the history of nowhere, no time have people been corrected online and then agreed with
I
it.
know. I know.
People don't, but we have to do it, I guess, you know? I was chatting with another author, and this is along the same lines that he will often, he's a very public figure. He's supports, trans right. He's a trans man himself. And he says, if he doesn't say something, he knows he's not going to change that person's mind. But if he doesn't say something, if he remains silent, his followers, his friends, his family, his kids are going to see his silence.
Right.
Right.
And
So
I think, at least for me, if somebody does say something that's harmful and ridiculous or untrue, it's not that I think I'm going to change their mind, but if you're putting in the comments like, this is wrong and here's why, hopefully people who come across it and are reading the comments might stop and think for a second. And they might not, but it took me 3 seconds, so what's the harm?
and then you move on, right? Like
Yeah.
the rest of us, like normal people do, aka I do not move on. I ruminate on things like all day. You know, this stupid person said on Instagram or whatever.
I have
It's
to
like,
say,
leave it alone.
I am very good at like engaging in any kind of argument with someone and then disconnecting from it. Like, it doesn't stick with me. It doesn't bother me. A lot of the time I can have an argument with someone and I'm not even mad at them. It's not personal to me.
That's
for better
amazing.
or for worse.
This is probably how you get through revisions of your novels too, is that none of it's like me, obviously I'm an awful writer. Like, obviously.
No, oh my goodness. No, but I am like that in my writing. Like, I'm very much like, there are some comments from an editor that hurt, I guess. But a lot of the time I'm very much in the camp of like, tell me what you want me to fix, tell me what is wrong, and I will do it to make this more marketable. Like, I'm very business-like about it, I guess. I actually get frustrated when I have an editor who is trying to, save my feelings by not being straight up in what they want me to change. I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, you don't have to feel bad that you're infringing on my, like, what I wanted the book to look like. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah. It's like you approach it like this is your job.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that I do.
Yeah. Even though you have another day job, which I would love to ask about, but I don't know if you're allowed to tell me too much.
I work for the government in my day job, but it's
a wild
an interesting, it's an interesting job. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, I mean, you could probably get a lot of ideas from it, but it's as far away from writing as possible, I think.
Yeah. I don't mind saying, like, I work in the criminal court system and I have for the last 7 or 8 years in various capacities. And so I think that almost helps me sometimes because the things that I'm confronted with in my real life are, very serious, not necessarily for me, but just to be around things that are very serious to other people and be part of that. It's like, okay, now I got a bad review and it doesn't seem that important because, I've just been dealing with something that's actually important in real life. So it helps me have perspective for sure.
So how is it you're able to find that balance between your author work and your other, criminal court system work, like energy, mental, time, like all of that?
Oh God, sometimes I'm not good at it. Right now I work 4 days a week, like 10-hour shifts, 4 days a week. So I tend to not even really write on the days that I'm working at my job. Those 4 days are kind of for my day job, and then the other 3 are when I work on my book if I'm on a deadline. So a lot of times I don't really have any days off, which isn't great, probably.
No, it's not.
No,
But you do
yeah.
you.
Yeah. But I did try writing full time last year for a few months
Yeah.
and I hated it.
Mm.
Like, I'm not the type of person who can stay at home and write. Especially if I feel like I have a lot of time to write, I accomplish nothing. Like, I need
Yeah.
to panic.
Yeah, that lands.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it.
Like, yeah, I can't have too much time or I'm not going to do it. I need the pressure
Yeah.
of knowing I have no time,
We
which is
need death
bad.
breathing down our necks in order to do
Exactly.
it. I get it. Like
Exactly.
I need to have these deadlines as well. It's like, we are very self-motivated creatures. Obviously, we wrote books without ever the promise of it ever getting out there,
Yeah,
but still, we
I
need those
know.
deadlines. It's very difficult.
And I mean, some people are very organized in that they write a certain number of words a day and they have these goals that
Yeah.
they want to meet for every writing session. And I'm just like, I won't write for several days in a row and then I'll sit down for 10 hours and I won't eat and I will just sit there and I will work on my book because apparently I can't do anything normally.
That's bananas. It's so
Yeah.
interesting hearing like different writers, authors, their writing practice and how different they are.
I know. I always am asked about it at panels and stuff, and I immediately preface it with like, this is not what you should be doing. However, this is what I'm doing.
Your next book, The Dark in Her Veins, sounds
Yes.
wild.
Thank you. It
Tell
is
me.
very different from what I've written so far.
Mhm, mhm.
Wild is probably a pretty good word to describe it. Yeah, it's adult dark romantasy, and I've only written young adult up to this point.
Yeah.
And so this is when my readership, if they continue with me into my adult books, this is when they're going to find out that I read a lot of dark romance. um,
Reel them in with the YA and then like
yeah.
hook them with the dark romance.
Yes, it is a very different book, though it has extremely similar themes. I think it's very me in terms of branding. It's just like the dark adult version. But yeah, it's set in a kind of a noir style world where rich religious people hire poor people to sin on their behalf because sinning causes you to have this affliction called the blood rot that slowly kills you. And so our main character is a sinner who works for a prophet who is the most important kind of figure in this world. And she doesn't want to work for him anymore. So under the guise of leading this other guy, his name is, I won't say his name, but he's called the Warden at the start of the book. She decides that she is going to pretend to work with him in order to kill the prophet. But to the prophet, she's saying that she's going to get the Warden and bring him so that he can be killed. So she's trying to kind of work against both of them at the same time, which it has been very fun and very difficult to write. They're all kind of villainous characters and they all do villainous things throughout the course of the book. And the Warden is the, I guess, romance main guy. And there's a very dom sub vibe going on between them for the whole book, and it gets really kinky.
I was just about to ask, how many chili peppers?
This is so hard to answer because it's so dependent on people's like personal scale, and my personal scale is very skewed because I've read some really fucked up stuff.
Tell me the truth.
Like, what's the scale? Is it like 0 to 5 or 0? Like,
I think it's 1. So 1 pepper would be like door closed, right? Usually YA. 5 peppers is like Haunting Adeline. Like you need to bleach your soul.
Okay, I haven't read Haunting Adeline actually. You don't need to bleach your soul. I have so much plot in the book that it's not just like a kinky sex romp. I don't have time to only have a kinky sex romp. So it is still very plot dependent, but it's also very horny. So I would say it's only like a 2 or 3. The sexy scenes are very sexy, but there are only a few in the book because it is very plot dependent.
So when does In the Dark in Her Veins come out? And also when does To Deal with Kings come out, which is the second in this To Steal from Thieves duology?
To Deal with Kings is out in March. I think it's
Okay.
March 25th of 2026.
Okay.
Something like that. The end of March
Yeah.
2026. And then the adult book comes out in August. And it was supposed to come out in April, but it got pushed back because they decided they wanted to make a fancy special edition hardcover of it, which is very exciting. But
Oh.
it also means it's going to be out a couple months later, but I think it will be worth it.
Yeah, and for that kind of a book, I think fall release is probably a good idea.
It makes more sense. And it's also good for
Yeah.
me because then I don't really have books releasing back to back. Like March and April would have been a lot.
Yeah, and you don't want your readers, your fans to choose between.
Yeah.
You want them to have both.
Yeah. So it's a full year until it comes out as of the time of recording this, but
All right.
I think pushing it back was for the best. And
Yeah.
there will still be arcs like
Okay.
soon-ish. So
I'm getting an arc, right? Like I
yeah,
need
of
an arc.
course.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need an arc.
As
And
long
then
as
I
you
will
don't judge
also
me.
I am totally going to judge you, and I'm going to leave an anonymous review.
You know
Just
what?
kidding.
That's totally fair.
I'm so excited that you're diving into the adult romantasy foray, particularly the dark romantasy. I think there is a voracious appetite for it, and I hope it does really, really well.
Oh, thank you
I have
so
a
much.
feeling, and
I'm
thank you.
excited.
Yeah, as you should be, and congratulations again on all of these successes. I cannot wait to
Thank
read
you.
all of your things. I am a lifelong fan. Gush, gush, gush.
You're the best. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Book Hook. This episode was hosted by me, KJ Aiello, with production by Jesse DiMartino and social media production and marketing by Jackie Johnstone. Come back for more episodes like this one.